Hey guys, how you doing? It's Coach Tregs here, the founder of 30 Plus Men's Fitness, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, what I want to do is I want to talk about intermittent fasting. It's a question I get asked a lot about, and it's a question I've specifically been asked a lot about this week in my current 5-day challenge. But before we get into this, if you like this content, then I'm doing one live workout a week. I'm trying to put new content on this page every week. Plus, I'm doing 1-minute shorts every day to try and give you guys some great value. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Then you're going to be notified of all of my content. Okay, so look, let's get into the subject. First off, what is intermittent fasting and how can it help you with weight loss, fat loss? Okay, so intermittent fasting is going a period of time without having food, okay? And if this is used correctly, it can help you stay in a calorie deficit and then create fat loss. Because remember, fat loss occurs by giving your body less calories than it needs. Therefore, it gives up stored fat for energy. So if you can pinch an inch around your waist, under your arms, we've all got excess body fat, then that's the stored energy that we're trying to tap into. Now, a lot of people say, am I a fan of intermittent fasting? What experience do I have? I'm a massive fan of intermittent fasting. I've got lots of experience with it. My first kind of awareness with intermittent fasting came back in around about 2012 when I read a book called Eat, Stop, Eat by a guy called Brad Pilon. I think that's a lot of people's kind of first sort of pathway into it. And at the time, it was talking about all these things like how intermittent fasting could reset hormones. It could increase growth hormone if done for a certain period of time. It can, clear you out of toxins, all this kind of stuff. And of course, I bought into it and I started putting it in my plans. And I always say, you only know what you know. And I was only doing the best with the knowledge that I'd accrued at that time. Now, intermittent fasting was getting people results, okay? But as I read more and more about it, I wanted to take a more practical approach. And when I discovered flexible dieting, working on calories in, calories out around about 2015, 2016, I started to take a more black and white pragmatic approach. Because look, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know, how it can reset hormones. How can we really see if that's going on? Let's just focus on what we can control, okay? And what we know is that if you go a period of time without eating, that can help you contribute to a calorie deficit. And so I'll tell you about how I started to use intermittent fasting. But first, here's a little backstory. So when I did my personal training course back in 2006, we, for our nutrition side of things, were taught the food pyramid. Okay, this is very outdated stuff. This is like 6 portions of carbohydrates a day. A lot of my clients were getting fat in the beginning. But we were also told breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You must eat breakfast because it will fire up your metabolism. And, if you don't eat breakfast, then your body will go into starvation mode and you'll slow your calorie burning down. So eat like a king at breakfast, a prince at lunchtime, and a pauper in the evening. And of course, don't eat after 6 p.m. because that will store fat. So with the best of my intentions, I used to have breakfast first thing in the morning. Now, this wasn't an issue when I was getting up at like 8, 9 o'clock. But when I started to set up my boot camps back in 2010, and some mornings I was up at 5 a.m., I was cooking up a 6-egg omelette in my apartment in coconut oil with greens with the best intentions. And actually a 6-egg omelette with greens and a little bit of coconut oil is a very healthy meal, but it was calories I didn't need at that time of the day. I wasn't hungry at 5 a.m. in the morning. I just wanted a coffee and sit down on a toilet and then I'm out of the door, right? I don't get hungry at 5 a.m. But what I was doing is, even though it was the best of my intentions, I'm having maybe 600 calories of food that I don't really need at 5:15 in the morning. And of course, then if you're looking at a calories in, calories out model, and you've got a certain amount of calories to play with for the day, I'm already eating about 600 of them at 5 a.m., 5:15. Chances are I'm not going to bed until 10 o'clock. So I've got a whole day ahead of me now, and I've already eaten a big chunk of calories. Now, thankfully, when I developed my learning, I went on more courses. I was actually told that actually, guess what? This whole breakfast thing, having it as soon as you get up, it doesn't matter. And I learned that breakfast is just to break a fast. Break a fast, that's what it is, right? And it doesn't matter whether you break it at 11 a.m., midday, as long as you have something nutrient dense. Ultimately, on this page, we're trying to get you to have more nutrient dense foods, right? And this set me free because I was like, well, I don't really want to eat this egg white omelette or this omelette at like 5:15 in the morning. I'd rather eat when I'm hungry. So I started to, with this kind of newfound knowledge, think, well, if breakfast is just to break a fast and, my body's not going to go into starvation mode and blah, 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 let's just see when I get hungry. And what I found was I'm actually quite happy in the mornings, coffee, water, start my coaching, till about 11 o'clock is when I'd start to feel some hunger. So I started to play around with pushing my breakfast back until about 11 a.m. or even midday, right? Wow. And if I was breaking my fast with nutrient-dense food, something high protein, then I was actually really good with that. Now, here's what it did, because I'm quite a big eater, okay? I'm an inherent fatty, right? And that's what got me into the fitness industry. I wanted to sort myself out. I found that if I could skip breakfast or put my breakfast back, I could then eat 2 quite big meals in the afternoon and the evening and remain in a calorie deficit. You see, even if I was eating healthy, quite often I could go into a calorie surplus because, I was eating 3 big meals. I told you I was having 600 calories I didn't want early on in the morning. Now, you people might be watching this and saying, oh, well, I can't go without breakfast because I can't think straight and all that. Look, I'm not telling you that you have to stop eating breakfast, but a lot of us are just hardwired to eat it because we believe that we have to eat, otherwise we're going to go into starvation mode. That's not going to happen. That's a myth, okay? When you give your body less calories than it needs, it starts to use stored energy for fat. And intermittent fasting is a way of creating a calorie deficit. So right now in 2023, I will quite often not eat until about 11 o'clock midday most days. And when I break that fast, I'll have a protein smoothie or something high in protein with real food, okay? Now, does that mean you have to do that? No. But a lot of people say, does intermittent fasting work? Well, it works because you're essentially skipping a meal. Helps put you in a calorie deficit. But of course, intermittent fasting can go wrong. So you need to consider a certain amount of things, all right? Okay, first thing is, intermittent fasting may leave you a little bit hungry. Now, there's nothing wrong with hunger. A little bit of hunger will keep you sharp. I actually feel very sharp in the morning as long as I've had my water and my coffee with no food until about midday, and then I'll start to think, oh, I fancy some food, okay? Oh, and by the way, your body does adjust to this, okay? Now, hunger is not a bad thing, a little bit, but we don't want to be hangry, okay? Hangry is not good. That's when you're really angry and you need food, otherwise you're going to go mental. And the problem is with intermittent fasting is people will buy into it and then they'll try and really stretch it. They'll try and stretch it. So the common method that we can use is called 16-8. So you're essentially fasting for 16 hours and eating in an 8-hour windows. That's what I would suggest to start off with, right? But most people then go, well, I'll try 20 hours, I'll try 24 hours, I'll try 36 hours, okay? I've tried everything for the sake of experimenting on myself and being able to report back to clients. So what I can tell you is that if you're looking to maybe put intermittent fasting into your life, a 16-hour fast is pretty easy. Somebody said to me on a call last night, well, how do we do it? I said, we'll start in the evening. Because if you sleep 7, 8, 9 hours a night, bang, there's a huge chunk of it out of the way, right? So it could look like you have your last meal at 6 p.m. and then you have your first meal at, 10 a.m. And that's 16 hour. That's 16 hours. And then you have your eating window and then you finish again at 6 p.m. Okay, now a lot of people will say, oh, I've done that. I've done that anyway. I got to work all day and I'm busy and I don't really eat. That didn't get me results, but then they'll tell me they would come home and often be so ravenous they would sit down and eat like a Domino's pizza or a Chinese. And here is the problem, right? Intermittent fasting doesn't work if when you break that fast you end up having a load of food. All right, so hear me out, because you have to ask yourself, what is my relationship like with food? So if you're watching this and you would say you're a little probably got a bit of binge eating in you. I've definitely got that. If you really push it, then there's the problem. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story about when I once tried a 60-hour fast. I joined a group on Facebook. Everyone was like, we're going to do a 60-hour fast. It's going to reset your metabolism and hormones, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I bought into it. And I got to about 44 hours and I was coaching a client in the gym and I felt extremely lightheaded. And I was actually sat down whilst coaching that client, and like, you don't sit down as a PT, right? I was like thinking, this guy needs a certain set of dumbbells, they're upstairs, I can't be bothered to walk upstairs. And when he left, I was like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to break the fast. So I walked down to, there was a college just down the road where they had a Subway and a shop, and I thought, right, I'll just have a salad. And I went in there and I ate the salad, didn't touch the side. So I went up and got a foot long, I got a Pepsi Max, I got some Doritos, you know what's coming. And then after I finished that, I went straight into the shop, I bought loads of chocolate, and in a nutshell, I ended up eating about 3,500 to 4,000 calories in one sitting. So the intermittent fast was ruined because I overconsumed, because I pushed it too far. And this is what we tend to do as humans. We want to push it too far when you don't need to. So if some stuff that I've said on this video today is resonating and you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind trying intermittent fasting, start with 16/8. Start with 16/8. Now, actually, it doesn't mean that you've got to skip breakfast. I like skipping breakfast because, you know, in the morning, I have a routine where I get up, I'll go down and jump in the sea, I'll do some cold water therapy, I'll come back, have a hot shower, and then it's like, get a coffee, get the kids ready and take them to school. You know, I'm not sitting down for a banquet in the morning, silver service, you know, with my neckerchief and going, right, let's sit. Because you just don't have that in the morning. We're generally in a rush. So I'm all right not sitting down for food in the morning, but I like to sit down for food in the evening. And there's no problem, you know, going to bed, having eaten after a certain time. Again, that's a myth. You know, somebody said, well, can I eat after 8 p.m? And I'm like, dude, like, it doesn't matter when you eat. It comes down to in versus out. We're burning calories from midnight to midnight because we're alive. We're burning calories all the time. Okay, and if like you don't eat many calories in a day and you have a big meal in the evening, you're probably going to be in a calorie deficit. Okay, so it does come down to in versus out, and intermittent fasting is a way to facilitate creating that deficit. You could say, well, actually I like breakfast, but I could skip my lunch and have an evening meal. You could do that. Some people say I'll skip my evening meal. Now, I've done that in the past, and you go to bed a bit hungry, and anything that affects your sleep and going to bed hungry can affect your sleep, can be detrimental the next day. Because if you have a poor sleep, you wake up with a hormone called ghrelin swimming around your body, and that's a hunger hormone. So that's going to make you hungrier. So these things need to be considered. These things need to be considered. Like you don't want to wake up really hungry on the back of a long fast and you've had a poor night's sleep. Okay. And also as well, a lot of us like to sit down with our families and sit at the table and eat a meal in the evening. So the social factor has to be considered. You know, if you've got wife, you've got kids, you know, you don't want to be doing something which is going to be detrimental to that kind of home life. You know, well, we like to sit down in the evening and have a meal. So before I conclude, intermittent fasting is literally, you know, skipping a meal to help create a calorie deficit. Do you need to do it? No. Hopefully, though, I've given you some points for consideration. Now, this is purely personal. Okay, this is purely personal. I have found 16/8 works really well for me, but I can push it to 20 to 24-hour fast sometimes. And my energy actually increases around the 24-hour mark, which is mad. It doesn't work for everyone. As long as I stay hydrated, as long as I stay busy, that really works for me. I recently did a 40-hour fast, which was actually okay because I'd had a super caloric few days away with my kids, going to various football matches and eating loads of kind of burgers and chips outside the ground, a couple of beers. So I decided I just needed to have a break from food. And it was actually quite easy because my stores were kind of topped up. And people might say, well, isn't that dangerous? That's not really healthy. You've like overindulged and then you're fasting. But, you know, I generally wouldn't do that all the time. But because I understand about intermittent fasting and I felt like I just needed a break, I was able to put that in. I was driving a lot of the time that I was fasting because I was on the way home from my travels, and I was drinking a lot of water too. And so it just helped kind of reset me. So guys, I'm going to sign off now. That's intermittent fasting. If you search online, you're going to find so many more benefits about it. But listen, you know, a lot of this about sort of resetting hormones, resetting your metabolism and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not qualified enough to talk about that. I just like to look at the black and white stuff. And intermittent fasting is a good tool to help you remain in a calorie deficit if you find it hard to balance your calories. But like with everything, you have to experiment with it for yourself. So I hope this has given you some insights. Let me know if it has. And remember, you know, if you are going to do intermittent fasting, stay hydrated, stay busy, and when you break the fast, highly nutritious food. Okay, guys, don't forget to hit like, don't forget to hit subscribe, and please leave a comment, and I'll see you soon.